Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retake League of Legends Editions brought to you by EGF Media. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at the semifinals that happened this past weekend in both North America and in Europe. My name is Jared Warnke, and tonight joining me are Owen Airship Bishop Kruger and Christian Saxby. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. So before we get into it, we're going to talk about the news and how the NA promotion tournament took place this past week leading into the semifinals. And actually, Dignitas went out in the first round versus TDK, and then TDK lost to TIP. So TIP are back in, they lost to Renegades. Renegades are back in, Team Impulse is back in, and now the team Apex Gaming from the Challenger Series is in. And that team has notable players like Xpecial and Keen on it, and their coach is actually St. Vicious, so I'm excited to see them in the LCS. Alright, so let's get down to business. So we had a lot of amazing matches this week. We're going to start with Liquid versus CLG. Christian, what do you got for me?
Game 1, Team Liquid came out swinging. They had a really good pick ban phase. They got both Kindred and Poppy, which are two power picks. And TSM CLG doesn't play Trundle, so they didn't have to worry about the counter pick. Yeah. And I just think that, that brought game 1 home. CLG did bounce back games 2 and 3, though. They swapped out Xsmithy's Nidalee for Elise, and they kept Darshan on Echo for both games 2 and 3, and they got 2 pretty convincing wins, as well as Afromu picking up the Soraka and playing her, to the best of her abilities. Game 4 was Dardoch turning into an absolute beast on Rek'Sai. He invaded so early and constantly. He made plays all around the map. Matt bringing the Bard with great tempered fates to initiate fights for Phoenix's Karma, who actually got a quadra kill in one of the crazy mid-game fights. Overall, that was a really exciting game to watch. And then, of course, Game 5, Silver Scrapes. It was an absolute insane game. Everybody wanted to make the play that brought home the win. So it was just fight after fight after fight all over. Team Liquid did get ahead-ish in the mid-game, but then they tried too hard to force Baron without side lane control. And also, I think Lorlo should have picked up Trundle that game, but, it's okay. He was fine on the Nautilus, I guess. I still think Trundle would have been better against Poppy, and not allowing Darshan to completely carry. And also, if Team Liquid really wanted to pressure Baron or bait Baron or something, they needed either Banner or Zizra or both to get some side lane control, because they didn't have any, and CLG wasn't, biting the hooks, the baits, so...
Yeah, I think one of the best things that came out of that series was in Game 4, where it was the Matt's Tempered Fate, and then Lorlo followed up with the Echo shield, and then Dardoch flashed in with a Rek'Sai knockup, and then Phoenix got like a 4-man ulted Karma Q, and that just destroyed CLG in Game 4. Owen, what did you have for this series?
Yeah, it was really interesting with Game 1. Team Liquid started out super strong, even though CLG had Echo, and this is a trend we'll see continuing as CLG picking Echo. And I think it was kind of a problem for Team Liquid rolling into games 2 and 3, since CLG kept picking Echo and kept losing. The Darshan Echo and the Elise pick from the jungle really set up this insanely strong, kind of engagey, like, we're gonna just throw down crowd control on you and you're gonna die immediately. So also the just the general tankiness and CC and damage of those champions kind of having a very complete kit was really impressive. And so Team Liquid Game 4 finally decides, alright, enough of this Echo junk, we're gonna just pick it first. So they dominate Game 4 with that, and we saw an amazing, again, the Bard ult into Echo Stun into a Mantra Q from Phoenix, and it was a beautiful quadra kill. And a defining moment of the series is kind of like Team Liquid's on the brink of elimination, and they managed to just kind of be like, alright, it's time to get serious, let's pick Echo. And Game 5, again, they learned their lesson, they ban Echo out. And there's kind of this back and forth bloodbath with team fights everywhere, but unfortunately Darshan's Poppy is just too effective. Perfect teleports and amazing team fight pressure.
Especially that last one with him and
yeah.
Phoenix right onto Piglet.
Yeah, the flank there was incredible. And again, I would consider Darshan kind of the series MVP, but I'd like to mention that Huhi's rise throughout the entire series, although they didn't win every game that they picked it, was always very impactful in teamfight, kind of just being there, playing the blue machine gun man, just throwing out spells, and a very strong teamfight presence from CLG in Game 5 especially.
Alright, so as we all know, CLG did end up winning that one. Let's talk about the big surprise coming out of North America. Immortals versus TSM. Christian, thoughts on that series?
I think Game 1 was actually the most important. Huni pulled out Lucian top out of nowhere. Hanser just picked Maokai. Maokai was up, staple pick. Graves was up for Huni to first pick. I'm not sure why he picked Lucian over Graves, but not the point. IMT losing this game, I think, cost them the series. They were up like 8,000 gold mid-game after getting an ace. They were up like 7 kills to 2 or something like that. They were all in the lead. If they were able to win, I think that would have set TSM back really far, knowing that Immortals were able to win without Huni being on a tank, which is where TSM kind of assumed that they would falter because Huni's never played a tank. He hates tanks, so maybe they thought that would be the nail in IMT's coffin if they can take advantage of Huni not building tank. It turns out they were right, but had they not been right, had they lost that first game, it might have put them on tilt with Huni carrying on an ADC top. Game 2, Sven got Nidalee. Sven played out of his mind. He ganked bottom, he ganked mid, he invaded. He was all over the map constantly, got everyone really ahead. Even though Pobelter was able to pick up a few early kills on Urgot, of all champions, he could do nothing with it because Sven was just literally everywhere on the map. And then Game 3, Huni was on Graves, so I guess that's close-ish to tanky. But Hanser was on Maokai again, so you kind of already know where this is going against a Jhin and Rek'Sai, so triple AD from IMT. Pobelter was put on Lissandra. Terrible pick. Lissandra is awful against tanks. On top of the fact that Yellowstar picked Janna, who's also really good against Lissandra. Turtle was on Jhin, who also sucks against tanks. I don't agree with either of those picks. For Pobelter, they should have picked like Zed or Varus, which, yes, it would have been all AD, but they can split push better. They do more damage against tanks than Lissandra, so... And for Turtle, Lucian was up, Ezreal was up, Caitlyn was up. There are, a bunch of AD champions that do better against tanks than Jhin does, so... Really well played by TSM, especially especially Svenskeren and Yellowstar. They played phenomenally.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I found out was that Svenskeren actually never played Nidalee during the regular season. Either it was taken away from them or it was banned out. So I think that was just really surprising that I guess Immortals didn't really see coming because there wasn't a whole lot of practice going into his Nidalee. And I gotta give a lot of props to Hanser. His synergy with Sven, those 3 games were out of this world.
Absolutely.
All right, Owen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how Immortals started with the triple AD comp, especially with a Lucian top. Lucian's not a top laner. And the weird thing is it actually kind of worked in the early game. We saw at 22 minutes, Immortals was up 7 kills, Baron and a tower with an 8k gold lead. That is huge. Coming back from an 8k gold lead, I mean, it took an additional 15 minutes of them getting stomped to equalize that lead. They just had kind of sloppy aggression going towards the top and the bot tower. They kind of split up and got picked off by groups. And Lulu buffing Maokai kind of... I believe that was game 2, because I kind of got sick of watching. I can't even keep my head straight after watching the series. And just... game 2, Lulu buffing Maokai turned Ironwood into Steelwood, and he was just not taking damage. Like, the whole kind of theme of this set was just Maokai, and Maokai doing Maokai things, to Immortals, and Immortals not having any recourse. Like, they didn't have any way to get through him, so they just kind of lose every team fight, apart from their early game leads, because they get early game leads. They rotate pretty well, and then as soon as it kind of got into the mid game, TSM's team coordination was just too strong. So I don't even really want to talk about the rest of the games. It's just painful. A disappointing end to Immortals' run during the spring split. I mean, they became too reliant on winning their early lanes. All throughout the season, we just saw Pobelter winning his lane, Wild Turtle winning his lane, and Huni and Rainover, and just there was no, like, teams couldn't beat them, not because they were worse as far as, like, pick bans, or they were worse in team coordination. They were just losing lanes.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be a great team if you can just win every lane. I mean, obviously you can still lose games, but in a best of one, there's not really a lot of adapting that goes on. So it's unfortunate that this happened to Immortals, but I'm excited to see what they can come up with in the summer split coming off of this loss. I mean, obviously it's not the finish they'd hoped for, but they're not relegated. I mean, not going to playoffs, yeah.
They're going to get some championship points, possibility of Worlds. So.
They have the third, fourth place match next Saturday, so
yeah.
they've got that to look forward to.
That's good. And I'm excited to see if Team Liquid can keep the memes alive and end up with another
and finish fourth.
Yeah.
I know I was talking about this with you earlier, Owen, but I want to talk a little bit about the support matchup in that game, Yellowstar and Adrian. I looked it up, and so Yellowstar played 5 supports during the regular season. Adrian only played 4, and Adrian's 2 top played supports were Janna and Soraka, which was 15 of their 18 games.
Yep.
And then Yellowstar's 2 best supports were Alistar and Braum for 15 games. So Yellowstar actually played Alistar, Braum, and Janna. The 3 of the 5 supports he played all split. And the Soraka was always banned out for Adrian because they knew he was going to take it regardless. But he only played Karma those 3 games, and I think they should have opted out for the Janna or possibly gotten Adrian onto something else. I think one of the big things that Immortals has to improve on is Adrian's champion pool. Because he's
the biggest champion pool, though.
I mean, if you ban out Soraka and you take away Janna, you know, Braum and Alistar not always the best picks depending on what team comp you have. And I think it could just be dangerous. Alright, let's jump over to EU, and we are first going to start with Origin versus H2k. Christian, thoughts?
Well, game 1 was really damn close, which is immediately a game 1 I knew was going to be an awesome series, at least for, I didn't expect 5 games, but, 55-minute long game.
Yeah.
Back and forth, just like trading objectives and such. Unfortunately, H2K they had the Kassadin, so he hit 6 items. He turned on full late game Kassadin, was able to one-shot Sven, one-shot Power of Evil, almost like one-shot Soaz. Like, he just got to full item Kassadin, and they were able to run away with that, considering Origin had Lissandra, who's not that great late game, Lucian, who's solid late game, but against a Kassadin, what can you do?
Yeah.
Game 2, Origin turned on something, and they just played incredibly. Mithy's Braum was just like a thing of wonders, and Sven was able to excel on Lucian because Mithy was just able to keep him alive constantly. He did so much damage. Really well played by Amazing as well on that Kindred, which I'm surprised he was able to get again. That kind of surprised me. Game 3 was the exact opposite. Game 3 was H2K shutting out Origin. If they had not gotten that, I think they got the mid turret. H2K would have perfect gamed them. They did what Origin should have done in Game 1, which is use Lissandra's early game to shut down Kassadin's really sucky early game. And that's what H2K did here. Power of Evil did absolutely nothing. Game 4, Xpeke's in. I was really happy about that. And then he fed like hell. But it's okay because he was on Lulu, and Lulu's very low resource, so he got a few items. He still has his ult no matter how behind he is. So as an Amazing, along with Mithy, played really well, just being tanky and peeling for Sven, who with the Lulu buffs was able to play hyper aggressive, dash in, get all of his damage out, which was a really good game. And another Game 5 series, just like the CLG TL1. Power of Evil was back in. He was playing Orianna, which is kind of a signature champion. He goes Rod of Ages Orianna, which I'm personally a fan of, but it's kind of signature to him. He played really well. I don't think that H2K should have let Mithy get Braum again. He was a literal brick wall the game before. I just don't think they should have allowed that. I think they should not have banned Karma and instead banned Braum, or take Braum away from Mithy and put him on, because he doesn't play Alistar very well, so there's that. And then, it was just Sven Alnushin again, being able to do what he wanted, and a pretty clean win for Origin to take the series home.
Yeah, we've seen Power of Evil on, like, whenever, I feel like whenever PoE plays Orianna, he's always in, like, some highlight video. Do you remember when he did Runeglaive Orianna, when he was still on the Unicorns?
And got a pentakill?
Yep. And then, when, I think they were playing Gamers 2? Correct me if I'm wrong. And they were losing by a lot, but he ended up picking up that quadra kill. No,
I don't recall.
I'm pretty sure that happened. I'll check.
It probably did.
And what are your thoughts on the Origin H2K?
I really enjoyed this set as a whole, just from a spectator perspective. It was very diverse. You had a lot of different games. It wasn't anything at all like the Immortals versus. Oh God.
Can't talk about it.
I can't. I shouldn't mention it. Game 1, you had these crazy Baron teamfights engaging and re-engaging and disengaging, and you saw OG winning a fight, and then H2K winning a fight, and then OG winning a fight, and then H2K winning it, and it's just nuts. We had the Forgiven quadra kill on Corki, and H2K just doing really well overall. Obviously, there was the back and forth, but they secured out Game 1. Then in Game 2, we saw this triple ADC comp from them coming off of their strong win, but unfortunately, Maokai and Braum kind of just zoned them out. H2K can't really find farm for their carries, and that's one of the risks when you do draft 380 carries, is that, Corki and Graves aren't really traditional 80 carries, but they can't really find enough farm for them, and they just kind of end up whimpering out with a gold disadvantage and slowly losing. So then in Game 3, H2K comes back, insane rotations, and OG loses all their dragons, towers, barons, jungle gold, just completely starved out. So it's kind of a reverse of the previous game, and just a 12-0 win from H2K. So it's interesting to kind of see these teams take turns stomping each other. And Game 4 is totally different from the previous ones, with this 50-minute farm fest, and just, no team fights, just farming, a pick here and there, and then just boom, explosion, and then it's over. And Game 5, unfortunately, Yankos' Grave doesn't really work out, and OG pulls out the win in the grueling best of 5. So I'm kind of excited to see how they perform in the finals, since we've seen them do all of these different picks. They've got Orianna, they've got these triple 80 carry comps, and they've shown that they can both win a game in a stomp early, and they can farm out, or they can just stall for 50 minutes. So it is really showcasing OG's ability to just play. They're not playing Teamfight League of Legends, they're not playing Farm League of Legends, they're not playing Protect the Carry, they're just playing League well in general. They're just doing a good job at everything. So I think they're kind of favored now, after I've seen this game, watching them adapt to each series and changing their picks and bans and changing their strategy. So I'm kind of anticipating the EU finals now.
Yeah. Alright, so now let's jump over to the other side with Fanatic Verse Gamers 2. Christian, what are your thoughts on that?
This series made me upset to be a Fnatic fan.
The script was broken.
Yeah. Game 1, super boring, quite frankly. There was literally one fight at 30 minutes, and then the game ended. Spirit played probably the worst Lee Sin he has played. He missed a bunch of free Qs, one of which cost them a kill on perk, which kind of cost them gold. Mat pressure, momentum, and I wouldn't say it lost them the game, but I think they would have had a better showing if he was able to pick up that kill. Trundle was up, and Clyde clearly cannot play him, otherwise they would have first picked him. Instead he went over to Kikis, and Kikis, went off with him. Fnatic was way too focused on getting Sivir, and I personally think she is super overrated in this meta. She sucks against tanks, she's immobile. Yeah, she has a good ult for initiating and good wave clear, But it's very evident that Lucian and Kalista are still, the king / queen of the bot lane. Game 2, Fnatic got exactly what they want. They got Spirit on Nidalee, Gamsu on Echo. They got Alistar for Cly, because that's kind of like his best champion. And then, Fevvin on Zed, Reckless on Ezreal. Those are just comfort picks for them. And they executed the best strategy to beat Ryze, which has nothing to do with putting Ryze behind, which they tried to do in Game 3. I'll get to that, or Game 4, but I'll get to that. They put his team behind. Trix Graves was absolutely useless because Spirit was able to just take over his jungle. Ryze is always going to be strong when he's behind, but, Graves and Poppy, when they're an item behind, are way less effective.
Yeah.
Game 3, again, Fnatic was way too hell-bent on getting Lissandra and Sivir, which is dumb because Fnatic doesn't teamfight as well as G2. The game before, they beat them with the 1-3-1, the Zed bot lane and the Echo top, where, just two really strong split pushers. So now they pick a full team fighting comp, which obviously was not going to work. And then Perks got Ryze, and he got 2 kills early, which basically meant the game was over. And Cly, again, being a liability, he was stuck on Nautilus, who is just not that good right now.
Yeah.
Because he has a really small champion pool. Alistar and Braum were banned, Thresh was picked. What else is he going to play? He doesn't play Karma, he doesn't play Trundle, he doesn't play a lot of things.
Doesn't play Soraka.
So... yeah, he doesn't play... well, he tried Soraka and failed.
Yeah.
Game 4, Fnatic lost at pick and ban, I will say outright, and it was Cly's fault. I hate to say it. They lost a free power pick because Cly can only play Thresh and Alistar. Alistar and Braum were banned. They only had one other choice for a first pick, and it was Thresh, which in turn meant Echo and Kindred insta-locked. And then... Perks got Ryze again. I really don't know why Fnatic was so hellbent on getting Sivir and Lissandra every time. But, hindsight is 2020. Also, Fnatic banned Lulu constantly. Perks has never shown up on Lulu. I think he needs a carry champion, and Lulu is not a carry champion. He got Ryze again, and he was behind on Ryze, but it doesn't matter because it's Ryze.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know how, scrim results went, so maybe Perks turned into, a god at Lulu all of a sudden, but I still don't think Lulu is worth banning over Ryze during any of their games.
Alright. Owen, what are your thoughts?
I only managed to catch Game 5, but from what I saw, Game 4,
Yeah.
the last game in the series, and from what I saw, it was just Fnatic picked most of their damage, pretty much all of it actually, was from their Sivir and their Lissandra. So we're kind of planning on just popping the Sivir ult and, destroying the opposition. But unfortunately, due to the Echo and the Kindred and the Ryze, who all excel at close quarters fighting better than the aforementioned Sivir and Lissandra, they couldn't actually fight. They just kind of die. And that's always one of the risks when you're drafting a comp, is you don't just need to think, what does this beat? You have to also think of, what does what we're doing better than what we're doing? The Kindred and the Ryze and the Echo are all good champions, maybe not the best things on their own, but in that combination, when you try to engage with your Sivir or your Lissandra, it kind of starts working, and then you realize that, our Lissandra ult was used, our Sivir ult was used, and then you just die. And it was really disappointing to see, kind of the back and forth early on, and that kind of finishing off the series, just we messed up our draft phase, whoops. And it's something that we've seen a lot, especially in Western League play. Something you don't really see too much in Korea. They usually draft more balanced compositions. And I think it was kind of a disappointing end to Fnatic's run.
We'll still see them on Saturday.
Well, yeah, I keep talking like they're over, but there is obviously the third place game.
I think they'll beat H2k for the record.
One of the interesting things that I think Fnatic probably should have done in the series is pick on Kikis a lot more. So Kikis, for those of you who don't know, used to be a jungler, and then he moved up to a top laner when they ended up picking up Trick, and he has only been able to play tanks. Kikis hasn't really been able to like take a carry position. He didn't really play like a whole lot of Graves, a whole lot of like Quinn when she was up there. He always liked the Poppy, Trundle, Maokai type style. The Nautilus he was really good at. And I think Fnatic really should have tried to ban that a little bit and just kind of bully him to pick up gold so that way like Reckless could carry or maybe even like Forbidden carry. Also, I would have liked to see Forbidden on more damage carries like LeBlanc. I think
Exactly.
LeBlanc is really good. And if you pick that instead of Lissandra, that kind of fixed a lot of the damage that they ended up needing. And I think just Gamers 2 kind of played it overall better. But now let's get to the predictions for next week. We have the classic NA matchup, CLG versus TSM. Christian, who wins it? How many games, too?
I have TSM in 5 games, personally.
Mhm.
I think it's going to come a lot down to how Yellowstar and Svenskeren play versus Xmithy and Afromu. You know, Darshan is going to probably get Echo Poppy, but Haunter has shown that he can play Poppy, he can play the Maokai, he can play the Echo, so I think that'll kind of be a stagnant top lane. Bjergsen versus Huhi, I think Bjergsen's better, as well as I think Double Lift is better than Stixay, but Stixay and Huhi have both shown that, you know, they won't feed despite being, you know, outmatched, which is why I think it's going to come down to however well Svenskeren plays versus Xmithy and however well Yellowstar plays versus Afromu. Who's going to create the most map pressure? Who's going to roam better? Who's going to gank better? Etc.
I just hope that TSM like ban Bard one game because I think if Afromu just keeps getting it, his Bard play has been out of this world this season. Owen, thoughts on TSM versus CLG and how many games?
I know it's going to go to 5 games, but as far as I'm concerned, that's how far the crystal ball goes. I mean, very volatile matchups, and they're very. If you asked me a week ago, I'd have been like, "Duh, CLG. Well, how is TSM in the finals? Why are you even asking me this question? Are you a time traveler?" But after that win over Immortals, it's kind of hard to judge what's going on since TSM was like 6th place or something.
Yeah, they finished in 6th. They played Cloud9 in the quarterfinals, who was 3rd.
Yeah, and it's nuts. I just don't really understand why TSM suddenly started caring. Like, did they hire a genie? Like, what happened? Like, why are they... I just don't understand. But I know it'll go to 5 games. That's as far as... I mean, I don't know if TSM's going to win. I don't know if CLG is going to win. I think it'll probably not come down to players. I think it'll probably come down to the draft and the strategy. And I guarantee you they're going to be boot camping. This is an age-old rivalry.
This is going to be a very interesting finals. All right, and for Europe, Origin versus Gamers 2. Christian, who's going to take it?
You can go ahead and finish. What were you saying, Owen?
I just think that G2 is going to win the European matchup. After seeing them in the semis, just kind of adapting constantly, I think OG is good, but I don't think they're quite as fluid as G2 is with their teamwork.
All right, Christian, Origin versus Gamers 2.
I think G2 is going to win 3-1. I personally think G2 and Fnatic were the 2 best teams in Europe, with Origin being a really close 3rd. G2, they showed against Fnatic they can adapt really well. They have a lot of different picks. You can't ban anyone out on that team. They team fight exceptionally well, which I think, Origin, they do everything really well, but they don't really excel at anything. I think Amazing against H2k played like the series of his life against a really lackluster Jankos. But I think Trick is just going to out-jungle Amazing, which will in turn kind of put Origin just behind from, the get-go. I do think Origin will pull just like one game, whether they cheese with, Power of Evil with a pocket pick, or just straight up, outplaying G2. I still think G2 will win 3-1 on just straight up better team play and better macro play.
All right. So for the 3rd place, Immortals versus Team Liquid. Anybody think Team Liquid's gonna take 3rd?
I
do.
4th place.
Oh, you do, Christian?
I still think Huni's going to be too arrogant to play tanks, and I think that will be their downfall. You know, they were really Team Liquid was so close to beating CLG. I don't see why they can't, you know, step it up and beat IMT, who have shown they are beatable now.
Yeah, the big old chink in the armor that maybe teams have been looking for. And then the third place match in Europe, Fanatic Verse H2k.
I think if Cly, you know, picks up a new champion, even if it's like Trundle within the next week, I think Fnatic can win. Jankos and Vander played really sloppily, along with everyone on H2K. Odo Omne is, you know, a shell of what he once was. Even Forgiven didn't look so hot, neither did Ryu in any of the games, really. I think if Fnatic stops prioritizing Lissandra and Sivir so much and puts Reckless and Forgiven on champions they can carry with, then I think Fnatic can take it in 5, I'm going to say.
Alright, Owen, who's going to take third in Europe?
In Europe, I'm probably putting the smart money on Fnatic. I think that they hit a little bit of a hiccup in their playoff journey, but H2K is definitely good. Like, I'm not trying to discredit them, but it's just Fnatic seems, on the whole, to me anyways, to be more consistent overall, especially in really volatile matchups. They've just got to really kind of focus with their support staff and their coaches and kind of figure out, okay, what do we need to do to stick to the plan? They seem like they're a team that kind of falters when they end up in the unknown, but if they're playing their game, they do very well. So I think as long as Fnatic's able to keep the metaphorical ball in their court, then I don't think they'll have any trouble closing out the third place win.
Alright, and for the finals, Saturday and Sunday, the games will start at 11 Eastern Standard Time, and that will be the EU set. So the EU third place will start Saturday at 11, and the EU finals will start Sunday at 11, and then immediately after they're done, the North American set will start, and then that'll go till whenever, depending on how many games get played. And that will do it for today. I'd like to thank Owen and Christian for joining me tonight. And if you like the show, make sure to follow us on Twitch. You guys can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. All those links will be down below. And from all of us here, I'd like to thank you all for watching. You can watch us the next time we are on. I'm Jared Morkey. Thank you guys for showing up. Have a good evening.